Well, we're back at it again. This time we're going to go high level consumption. We're going to Hills Are Alive. I guess this is most probably the latest addition to our sort of regionality of Shiraz. And I guess the story behind this sort of happened was when I actually started looking at the fruit from this vineyard, we've made Shiraz from everywhere, from Clare Valley all the way down, through the years. We've played with some Pad the Way fruit, some Coonawarra fruit, obviously Langhorne Creek, McLaren Vale. When I actually started looking and tasting the fruit off of this, there's just this recall to my Canadian brain of drinking Northern Rhone Syrah. And in that area of Hermitage, funny enough, what we used to actually call Shiraz back in the 60s was Hermitage. To me, it actually harkened back to those flavor profiles that I used to get drinking these really slaty, peppery, less fruit drive and more ethereal sort of style of Shiraz or Syrah. And the opportunity came up that when we got this vineyard to look at that expression. So I'm really excited about it. The name, Hills Are Alive, obviously it's the Adelaide Hills, not really commonly known by a lot of people outside of South Australia for a Shiraz producing area. Play a little bit on the whole thematic bit to me, and the hills are alive. So we all always say, get a little Julie Andrews into you. She makes you happy, puts a smile on your face. So in our limited release, this really is the story of a single vineyard. The relationship between a grape variety and the dirt that it grows in. There's no such thing really in Australia, in my mind, as a real minerality character that you get out of soils. Our soils are so old that isn't highly impactful on what we actually get in that flavor profile. But to me, there is this sort of wet slate, cool, dusty stone character that comes out of this wine. When you smell this is the 2017 vintage, which is just looking great. It's just rounding out. Our theory is we don't age it, you do. This has now had a couple of years in bottle. It just shows that evolution of this lovely Morello cherry and pomegranate.
Absolutely.
But you see how I mean? Like it's almost got an undertone on the nose. I smell almost like a bitumen, sort of tarry character too. A bit of rose petal. And it's earlier on to me, that really exciting thing to me is that sort of fennel licorice character. To me, it's almost integrated into it. It's got that treacle molasses licorice tone in it. It's just evolving into an amazing wine. So, it's not what I would call it's not a big ballsy wine like a Barossa Shiraz.
Yeah.
It's got more elegance and it's a little bit more leaf than McLaren Vale. It's very fruit primary. It's got this lovely balance of sort of savory tones along with those sarsaparilla and red cherries and licorice. And the vineyard does have wild rocket and fennel growing on the property. So there's that sort of exchange of flavor that comes from those companion plantings in that wine. We ferment this, and we don't want to talk a lot about wood because wood makes tables and baseball bats and everything else. But this does spend a little bit longer in a relationship with our barrels so that we soften and round out those tannins, because this fruit comes in and it's so tight and small and really crunchy that we need to help coax it out of its shell and put something interesting into the glass. Just letting it sit in that glass and open up, you're getting more of that deep sort of white peppery character on the nose. Wow. It's just lush and round and juicy, but not extracted. It's got broad shoulders, but there's still some class to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the Adelaide Hills. As a Rocky Mountain boy, we're not talking my elevation, but from a South Australian standpoint, we're talking 350, 400 meters above sea level. Yeah. So it's some of the highest planted vineyards that we have in South Australia. And to me, that sense of place is what really gives this wine its story.
Yeah.
It's right on the cusp. It's the most northern Adelaide Hills vineyard. You literally go over the northern fence of this and you're in the Eden Valley. So we're technically right on the cusp of the Eden Valley, you know, the top end of the Barossa. So there's a kinship of that flavor profile. But I love comparing this to our Barossa Shiraz, our Baron von Nemesis, because they're only 2 degrees of separation from each other, but they're night and day in the bottle too.
Yeah.
And it's that regionality that we're really trying to focus on. So yeah, that's Hills Are Alive. Aussie lamb, a bottle of this, you're in heaven. A little bit of rosemary.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, enjoy. Cheers.